We are doing modern India today, and there are two beautiful questions from 2015 main exam. And one of like it's a typo instance there can be a question of this nature, and people generally do not know how to deal with this kind of question. Second is also there, and I will give you some mark boosters that can improve your mark at least one or two. And one mark increment in one question is a huge deal when you consider it on a larger scale. Like if you consider the whole paper, then there are 100 approximately questions, so it makes a approximately 100 mark difference, so 750 to 850, something like that, and you have to fight for every single mark. So without a delay, questions are here if you want to participate, and I would recommend you to participate to get benefit out of this. And now I saw coachings have started putting this kind of material, but their material is like, you can go Mronal and see what kind of substance they are providing. So yeah, that being said, let's start our session. So the question is, how different would have been the achievement of Indian independence without Mahatma Gandhi? Discuss. So it is asking you to imagine, and mostly we are recommended to not to go. Gandhi would have done this, would have said this, something like that. But that's exactly what this question is asking us to imagine. And what do we have to imagine? Independence movement without Gandhi. So there is a simple thing like Gandhi's contribution, significant and salient contributions. Salient means which are mostly contributed to Gandhi. For example, the Satyagraha. The element of Satyagraha has nowhere to be found without Gandhi. Like before Gandhi, there was no such thing. There was no such thing as civil disobedience. Like there has been revolt and disobedience are two different things, but civil disobedience was something that is uniquely attributed to Gandhi. No, like prior to Gandhi, there were no such leader who practiced this kind of stuff. Like they would write you in the letter that your this law or that law or this rule is wrong, and I'm not going to obey to it. They would simply protest. So you recall those three P's: prayer, petition, protest. But this was further enhanced and turned into a quite effective instrument by Gandhi. So these things you have to bring it out, not just mention the name of the moment. So this is there. First you have to somewhat recognize, and then you go a little bit deeper and show the insight that how Gandhi contributed this thing. And overall you conclude that there might have been independence of independent India, but without Gandhi there would have not been some like provision in the constitution which are Gandhian provisions, you see DPSP. So you have to somewhat accumulate these points which are specifically attributed to Gandhi and bring about diversity in sense, different dimension. Okay, so like I said, DPSP is another point which is hardly seen in like aspirants answer sheet. So let's see what we have in our answer. The struggle for India's independence had taken a pragmatic shift in its way of politics after arrival of M. Gandhi in following ways. So yeah, that's quite like, I would say it's somewhat showing an insight. It's a good introduction. Satyagraha, strict adherence to non-violence. Now you'll have to cite like Chora Chori incident and withdrawal of NCM, non-cooperation CDM, hunger strike. Okay. Now this is what I say, like empty examples. You are citing example, but how they are relevant, how they are meeting the demand of this question, that elaboration aspect is missing over here. So rather than like, it's like these are the facts, make sense in whatever way you can. This is what you are telling to the examiner. You are not applying your own mind to meet this thing. It's like I can recite entire Indian history in a chronological order in best of my way, and let's ask all the aspirant to do so, and then we make our question. So that's not the point. When you have this kind of question, you are required to apply your mind and then provide as accurate, as precise, as relative, as effective as you can, and that's why we judge it. Like, and that has application when you go on the ground, you are working, then your implementation, your reading of the situation will determine your course of action, what you will do and how effectively you will deal with that. So this is why this aspect is being examined by the UPSC. Okay, so keep this thing in mind and try as hard as you can. peasant participation in national movement. Okay, so these things are like this is there, and you can talk about Harijan too. So here too, Gandhi, what did this like Atmanirbhar concept? So he tried to build up his entire attire. Gandhi's entire attire was to connect with masses. So which leader do you see other than Gandhi practicing this? Do you have any leader in your mind? No, you won't have. Try to think. It's very difficult, at a national level, such a leader. And I'm not just asking in case of India, you can think in terms of entire world. So you'll find these things are very difficult to see, and that's why they have to be brought out. Most people will like answer like this. So connection with masses, trust of masses, that charisma that Gandhi enjoyed, you have to talk about that. That people participated, laid their life on one call, do or die. So that would have not been possible without Gandhi. Now you can understand, if you are applying your mind, then you can see yes, these things are like very specific to Gandhi. Otherwise people do go to war in rebellion and whatnot and die fighting, but no one goes empty handed marching against the bullets. Okay, so these aspects have to be brought up here in a beautiful manner. Like you just write 3 or 4 points, but they should be so much powerful that examiner is forced to award you better marks, because then he will be reading this kind of material. Okay, it would have been different without Mahatma Gandhi. INC extremist model or without. So what you have tried to establish after in following. So you are saying, let me see, the essence of your answer is it got practical because of Gandhi in following ways. One, two, three, four, right? Then you are saying it would have been different without Gandhi. How? One, two, three, four. What do you mean by INC two ideologies? So how it would have been different? At least it is not clear to me. Limited to elite in urban sections. How? Previously it was, but I can see there was expansion with due time, and I can counter argue for for this thing. Like a counter argument can be even given for the Gandhi, but see, things have to be in a manner that examiner is nodding, means yes, 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 you are right, you are right, you are right, then you will get good marks. That's what they check. And now I'm reading this and I'm have to like think of the examiner. If he has to think and it's not clear at first hand, then he's not going to pay much attention. He will just give you 2 3 mark. 2 marks most often is most frequent number that is awarded. So yeah, you are getting 2 out of 10, and then he'll move on. 2 3, that's it. No participation of peasant and penetration to grassroots level. Missing national conscience. Now, this is something you can talk. Okay? Gandhi is often attributed to unite India as one in terms of exploited lot. Means we were all exploited by Britishers. So this sense was quite strengthened and brought forth by Gandhi. That's why he is called like father of the nation, because he united north south and irrespective of language. So yes, this is a very solid point, but its expression is quite missing. And that point, like you can talk about Gandhi in conclusion, due to his contribution, he is called father of the nation, and it would be such a beautiful answer. Okay, Gandhian politics of Satyagraha led to emergence of nationalism in sense which was missing to the sections of society before his participation. It's an average answer, I would say. It's not like bad. You have tried, and some points are there. So yeah, but now I think after knowing this aspect, you will be in a better position to write a better answer. So let's see the second one. Many leaders have contributed in freedom struggle, but Mahatma Gandhi is seen as central figure in national movement by some historians because of following reasons: mass mobilization, fought for different social problem like peasant issues, labor issues. Now what's happening over here? Okay, it should be connected now. Okay. Helped in empowering women and promote their participation in struggle. Let me just check if it is coming out right. Okay, it is right. helped in empowering women, promote their participation struggle ideology of non-violence was unique. Now this is something like I talked about. You have to show those unique aspect, and then again mass mobilization through attire, connecting with masses and mass mobilization, enjoying the trust of the people before his arrival. But different leaders were there, but a leadership was mission. Other view of historians, some believe that leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose became leader of youth, influenced nationalism in which shook the British Empire. Some also argue that British Empire had become too big to manage, so freedom at the end would have been achieved. There are different. Now, this thing is somewhat irrelevant. It is not asking if without Gandhi have could we have achieved freedom. So if that were the question, so you could answer this thing. So it is little bit deviant, but okay. There are different views regarding this, but idea of Swaraj, non-violence, Gandhi are foundation of freedom struggle, without which it is very difficult to imagine about independence movement. Okay, so I do have written this answer in a beautiful manner on last when you get the PDF, because I wrote it in previous year only and it's there, because I do write some typological answer and the things I talked about here are there. But before that, like I say, don't go for easy way, make the obstacle the way, so you struggle and then you can appreciate the beauty of a better answer. If you start thinking about spoon feeding getting all those answers, so it won't make your insight to grow. So suffer a little bit. I know it's difficult, but do that, and I think now you can at least appreciate what a better answer could be. Here approach is quite good, I would like say. Why? Because you have just not showed the positive aspect like which were there. But if Gandhi wouldn't have been there, so there would have been some negative, or you can say positive negative not in terms of their nature, more of the additive and subtractive. So without Gandhi, there would have been different leaders like Bose, and they would might have used violent or rebellious mode to attain freedom. So that possibility. But this is like you can just talk in one or two point at most, because this is speculation. Okay, so we can speculate anything apart from like say Subhash Chandra Bose. You can talk about Nehru might would have taken, Patel might would have taken. So these are possibilities. Okay, and people often fail to differentiate between probability and possibility. I'm not going to explain that over here, but you are somewhat intertwining your imaginative aspect than what practically happened, and practicality in your answer is appreciated by UPSC. So that's what we have to follow. It's not like I'm saying it out of anything. It just this is what UPSC appreciate, and rather than fighting that no, my approach is good, it's better to adopt the approach which fetches you marks. Okay, now that being said, let's see the next question. It would have been different for the Constituent Assembly to complete the historic task of drafting the constitution for independent India in just 3 years, but for the experience gained with Government of India Act 1935 discuss. So it is saying कि difficult होता भाई, सही है गलत है. So again, though it is not directly asking for you that it's right or no, but you can say yes, and you can even say no, or you can say it's rather than yes no, yes it contributed, but our leader were well learned. Now you can see the other perspective which do exist. So you can say ki, yes it did help, but our leaders were well learned, like Ambedkar. He had I think two or three PhD, two PhDs. So he was I think physicist as well as a lawyer, or learned lawyer. Apart from that, there was dominance of lawyers, Nehru, Patel, all these were Rajendra Prasad. So yeah, it can be. I'm trying to show that we can completely agree, we can somewhat disagree. Again, I'll give you a further resolution. It's more like most often we go in this bi-dimensional yes and no, dictamus world. Yes, no. There exists another perspective to look at it. It's like strongly yes, then somewhat yes, Like, yeah, somewhat it happens, somewhat no. Then there is neutral point. Okay. Then there is somewhat no. Okay. And then strongly no. So this is like hard, and it is more resolute to move towards this frame of reference if you want to get more effective, more precise, more clear answer. So you can strongly agree or disagree, you can somewhat agree, disagree, you can be neutral. Okay. And you can somewhat disagree, or you can strongly disagree. Okay. I would give some example over here. Like, if there was a case like secularism is somewhat threat to our cultural practices, then you have to somewhat strongly disagree. You can cite concerns, but you have to uphold well established values in principle. Okay. For example, though I think it's not in UPSC, but in interview they ask this question, like, this bulldozer policy is affecting result in miscreant people are not vandalizing public property, and on a similar line, like putting names or encounter, these things can be put forth. Okay. Then you have to strongly disagree. So make this resolution clear in your head. Where do you have to strongly disagree? Because either bulldozer policy, encounter, some people might see, to be effective in a efficient way, but it actually is not, and you have not thought about it. I can give you 5 hour lecture on that in one go, why it is bad, but that's not the requirement over here. Just try to understand and figure out some core principle, and try to develop this higher resolution image that you can draw in your answers. So let's see what we have for our intro, body, and somewhat framework as and conclusion. Various provisions of the independent Indian constitution had been. Now see, this is somewhat problematic statement or sentence, I would say. So you are saying various provision of the independent Indian constitution, rather than like, what if I don't write it? Various provision of Indian constitution have been brought from Government of India Act, which made a structural part of the constitution, without which it would have been difficult to frame it in just 3 years. Now you just, if I have to say, you just answer this whole question in this part. Now you are going to further elaborate it. Rather than doing this, you could have talked Indian constitution was formed in this time period, and it mainly consists of this one, two, three part, like the administrative part, philosophy, and other parts. Okay. So what happens when you draw this? Then you can say this part is large chunk of constitution which is brought from this thing you just have highlighted. The philosophy, the modification, and the other some other provision were rather well deliberated and adopted by our learned constituent assembly. So this will show that yes, you have a better resolution, and it would be far more appreciated. So this is what you have to improve upon. Let's see what else you have written. Provision of Indian constitution and its contribution. So now you are showing, like, with 1 2 3 4 points, that you, this thing, these this is not required. Okay. This is not asking you what provisions were taken from Government of India Act. It is asking if this was not here, then the time taken. Okay. The time we took, no, what is the time? 2 years, 11 months, right? And 18 days, if I'm not wrong. So this thing, from what date to what date? Like, date is not important. Time, basically, year in term, you can say. So this thing you have to address, and how you can draw, how you can say this is relevant or non-relevant. First, you talk about this. This is one dimension. Second, you can talk about other people's experience, like drawing analogy. I always say draw analogy. How you can say? You can say like Ram is also like us. He can complete this work in 2 days. We are like equally potent with Ram, so we can also. This is something like that. And here you can draw an analogy of American Constitution, which only had like 10 articles. It has only 10 articles, and it took 5 years, 9 months. Okay, so you can say on a similar pedestal, American Constitution took this much time. Okay, just because it did not had something like this, but it can be countered as well, in sense that though it took 5 year 9 months, but it did not has these provisions, deliberate administrative provisions. It does not have something like this. So this is there, but the actual reason is that it is, if you know, it is one of the first constitution of the world, democratic constitution. So that's why American constitution took that much time. But now you have to convince your examiner or whoever is checking that these are the reasons. So I'm not telling exactly this, I'm telling you like draw conclusion, draw comparisons with respect to China, with respect to US. Developed countries should be rather avoided. So we are developing countries. So in other cases, Brazil, China, Pakistan are some good examples. Okay. And then finally, coming back to our frame of reference, our answer. This is that, and second is this aspect we have shown. If you can think of other third dimension, it would be far more welcome. Okay. Hence, the government of India make the bulk of provision of the constitution, but other provision had also been incorporated by ransacking the world constitution of that time. Okay, now this can be like third point. Yeah, there were other constitutions too that also helped. Okay, so over and all, your conclusion should be key. Government of India Act was one of the factor, a significant factor indeed. Okay, but other factors were there. This is your third dimension. Okay, now you can talk about there were other factors, example dominance of learned persons, lawyers. Okay, then a reference for from other constitution. So this is making our work easier, is it not? So now you see, you just write one dimension and another person comes and write three dimension, and you are the examiner. Whom will you award 5 to 6 marks, and whom will you award 3 to 4 marks, 2 to 4 marks, listen. And this creates the whole difference, you know. So be the judge yourself. I won't say a word. Now let's see the next question. You have written Indian Constitution maker had borrowed many provisions from different countries, and large part of constitution is borrowed from. Okay. Now you have talked this thing which I talked about. Constitution is made of this, and you have talked is as overall. Okay, some part are brought from government of India, and other are other constitutions. Okay. Provision borrowed from government of India Act. So you are talking about this aspect. These are brought from GOI 1935. However, other provisions, now you are talking about the second dimension, right? These are provisions taken from other constitution. Okay. Now you are saying borrowing and taking help from reduce the time principle maker constitution, but in words of B.R. Ambedkar, no one had patent on fundamental ideal of constitution. Main provision have similar. Now you have deviated. Okay, what relevance does it make with respect to our work of completing constitution and less burdening of task in a time domain? Time domain पे question है कि हमारा time कम लगता है. So how is it relevant? Yes, you can run cycle, but it has no relation with respect to like time other than what you have already said. So it is somewhat making the same argument on a different notion, which is not relevant. You have already proven that, you have already said that. Hence the credit for, again, make some line, I can see there is a crunch of that. So always leave some space writing conclusion like this. You can something. So make this a habit. It won't come in an examination hall all by itself until you practice and make habit out of it. Hence the credit for modeling, molding borrowed provision in it in this short time according to need of. I think again this is not that apt, but you can say anything you want to, and I have made my point clear. Like you can follow the rule, try to bring out some other dimensions that gives beauty to your answer. Again, this is one dimensional answer. You are just talking about these things. Other two dimension are what? Dominance of learned person, and what was the third one? Yeah, another was, yeah, comparison with another constitution. So this is how you can write more effective answer. You can attack the demand in different aspects, different domains. Okay, so this is what they call like, so 3 dimension and 3-5 rule. So I hope it was effective, and I again encourage you to find anywhere like this kind of explanation, illustration on YouTube or any copy, and please do make a comment and contribute towards like our holistic learning. Okay, I am somewhat telling you, but I can learn. So do that. See you in next one. Bye.